everything. Today's guest is Andrea Brunswick. She is a creative life strategist for women 50 plus who are frustrated with where they are presently in their lives. Her mission is to serve women who find themselves unable to move forward by showing them that if they change their thoughts, emotional freedom is waiting for them. Welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, Mark, thank you. And I love that intro that you gave to me from what I sent to you. So thank you. Listen, thank you for having me. And thanks for creating this space because I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I try to make it, a very open space for people. And it's just a discussion, just, talking regular with people, you get more information and more knowledge. So, I figured, why not put it on YouTube and see what we can gain from it? I like to start each podcast with a question from the previous guest. They don't know who the next guest is going to be, but they get to ask whatever question to that guest. And
wow, I love that.
I stole that from another YouTuber.
Okay.
But I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. So I started using it myself. The question you got was, what is your take on the meaning of life?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, sure. Right out of the gate. Okay. Can I have a sec? I just want to I'm not sure if because I've had such a big transformation, right? Mm-hmm. So I just kind of I don't want to, maybe I don't want to give like the old me answer. I really want to be authentic and be like the me I am today. So, geez, do I do bullet points? Do I do sentence form? Okay, I'm just gonna let it rip, okay? So I feel, for me, that the meaning of life is about connection, community, love, helping, but first and foremost is to be willing servants to the high, to the Father and to Jesus. And that's what I really feel is the meaning of life. They created us so that, we could all experience the truth of what they wanted for us. And that's to know them through each and every one of us believers. Yeah.
That's amazing. I had a guest, not the last guest, but guest before that. She was a psychologist and an avid Christian. And she was bringing up points about how we depict God from our parents. Like we take our belief in God or the way we see God, like we see our parents, and how that can change in people because of how parents are sometimes. And it was just an amazing thought that I never really thought about. We do see, because our parents are like gods to us. So it would make sense to depict them as our thought of God. And so I just didn't know how it was in my life that's how I saw God. And I had to change that thinking some because God is for us and we have to, have a personal relationship with him. So I just thought that was something
no, that is really interesting though. That's a little bit, and when you say that, if I could just add something to that, just because both my parents have been passed on for, like, my father this coming month is going to be 39 years. So,
wow.
I was in my early 20s when he passed, and my mother passed in 2006. I never really saw my parents made that connection, but I will say that all of those decades ago now, I was very much of the world and of New Age. Now, I always had God, but I made God to my own definition and understanding is how I would say it. So I never had that connection of my parents and God. Interesting. That is very interesting. I like that.
I had it in my life. Like I literally didn't even put it two and two together until she had said it. Like I had, my life was full of stress at a young age and a lot of trauma. And that's how I saw God to me. it was a very stressful situation, something I could never, you know, make it to. Like we all fall short of the glory of the Lord. And so I just always felt the stress and pressure to be better and more. And like it
Mm,
literally framed my entire life. Like I just didn't realize that until recently. So it was like mind
interesting.
blown, and it changed my life to have that thought process now.
That's
Uh
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really
Uh
gonna think on that one for sure. Because
yeah, because
yeah, yeah,
you never would know like how much of your thoughts of your parents also go into your thoughts of God. It's a really interesting concept. Uh
it is an interesting concept. And it's interesting into where just to give it a little background before we move on and why. So I'm born Jewish. So
okay.
yes, I was brought to God from my parents and through Judaism, but not in a religious kind of way, but more in a traditional way. So I see what you're saying though. But see, I kind of like abandoned the whole religion thing, but not God, not God. Yeah,
I understand that.
interesting. Yeah,
That's how I am now. Like I've abandoned religion, but I still have a concept of God. And I
yeah.
feel like that's a better way to live because a lot of structured religion takes away from people's relationship with God.
Right, like the laws that, and that was the thing about Judaism, right? It
Yeah.
was all of the laws that they didn't make sense to me. I didn't think that God said them. So
Well,
even
and
from a little girl, I never thought, no, 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 I can eat pork. I'm going to heaven. God's not going
yeah.
to turn me away because I'm eating things that they say. Like I just found things to be, I don't know, bizarre.
Well, see, for me, it was, everything we did as kids, we were going to hell for. No matter what it was, we were going to hell. Like that's what we were taught. And that's how our
Oh,
religion was taught. And it
okay.
was very structured, very, very structured. And nothing you did was good enough. And like I associated that also with my family because I never thought anything I did was good enough for them. So like it literally all connected and made me just stressed out all the
I could
time.
see that. I could see why that would be
Yeah,
needing
like
to please,
anxious.
the needing to please, and
Yeah,
always feeling like you can't, like you're just missing the mark. I
yeah.
would say, who were you born into? A Jewish family? Because of that
I
needing to
know, right?
please and be perfect.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
that's
like
crazy.
it literally changed my entire perspective about my life. And
Mm,
I had to remove myself from that in order to realize that I needed to do stuff for myself. I needed to structure my life in a way where I wasn't so stressed out and move forward and still have a relationship with God, just not with what people were telling me that had to be. Because I don't feel it's that structured because it's personalized for everybody. Like I can't tell you how to, praise God, and I can't tell you how to your relationship with God, just like you can't tell me. And I feel like that's how it should be for everyone.
yes, yes, yeah. Now, so my journey this last little bit since 2021 has been so the scripture of Hosea 4:6, my people perish for lack of knowledge. I heard that when I was blessed to be through Clubhouse. Do you know, are you familiar with Clubhouse?
No,
So it was a social app that came out in 2020, only audio. It was fat. I loved it because it got me through the flipping big lie of 2020. Right. And there were rooms and discussions. In any case, I was really new to this app, and I ended up in a room 7 o'clock in the morning that was called Think and Grow Rich Sis.
okay.
And at that point, I was really of the world, like new age thought, new age spirituality, law of attraction, studying it, mastering it, coaching using those techniques for decades at that point. In any case, I go into this room, and the host of the room introduces herself. And she says, this is because I thought it was going to be from the book Think and Grow Rich. I thought maybe we would be talking about that book if you're familiar with it. In any case, so again, she says, this is a room for brilliant female Christian entrepreneurs. So like, it didn't matter that she said Christian because that made no difference to me. What was important to me was I was going to be in a room with other women, females who were entrepreneurs. And she was, apparently using biblical principles, which I had no clue of because I had no clue of my father's word. And that's why my life was perishing. And I heard that scripture somewhere, I think one morning in that room. And I don't know if you're from the same generation as I am, but there was, maybe it's a Canadian product, I'm not sure, V8, the juice, remember?
Yeah.
I could have had a V8.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me, is I could have had a V8 because I had been seeking. I've always been a seeker and always very curious and hippie like and da 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 da. And a lot of me that I didn't understand was very Christ like in my philosophies and in my way of thinking. And now I can understand in the same way he said about he came here to be the curse for us from the curse of the law, and his bringing the message of the Father of Hashem to those my people, to my
Yeah.
ancestors, that no, we're doing things differently. And listen, and I understand that mindset of my people, and I can see where they had that resistance, like what, but
Yeah.
I really was like, man, and it made me really seek. And I just like have been on a journey that Holy Ghost has had me on. But just before that room, it was at the very beginning of 2021. I heard the Father say to me, because God's always spoken to me since I'm a little girl, this is going to be your year to unlearn, Andrea. This is your year to unlearn. I was like, yeah, okay, like unlearn what? And then he quickly showed me, and that was all of the teachings and all of those that I used as mentors that didn't know that they were all of those, like the thought influencers and what I refer to as the old boys club of the law of attraction, the speakers. And I was more than happy and so willing because man, it's been an incredible journey and ride that Jesus and the Father have me on. And to have the Holy Ghost has been so awesome.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. That is awesome. I myself
yeah.
have also been on a journey in the last few years, starting around 2020. Like my eyes were open to a lot of different things. And, you know, the universe spoke to me. And I'm very much a law of attraction type person.
Okay.
And I'm very much the new age thought process, but with old school religion as my structure. That's how I began. Like I went to church my entire life. We went to church every single day. I spent most of my time in church more than I spent at school or at home. So I've always had that upbringing to where we were always taught the Bible and we knew the Bible well. So we could always speak on the
Oh,
Bible.
okay. Okay.
And like I even went to school for theology as one of my majors in college. Well, my first time I went to college. So, but I studied apocalyptic eschatology, which is the study of prophetic books. And, from
Oh, wow.
yeah. And so we learned a little bit of all religious texts that were prophetic in nature. And, like the book of Daniel or the book of Revelation. And it broadened my mind to the point, and I came to the conclusion that when they say the end times, it's not so much that means an apocalypse as far as the world is going to end. It's the fact that every society has their ending. Like we literally have a conclusion to every group of people. So America's what it is now, but at some point, the last person who was a part of our generations and life will be gone and will fade away into existence. That in itself is the Armageddon. It's the end times because it's always the end times for us because we die. And I tried to push this in my thesis because if we think about it as in, because everyone dies, we all go through an Armageddon or a ending, we have to get right with God, like before our time is up. And at the end of that, one day we'll all be gone and things will be changed, things will be different on a planet. So we have to make heaven now. We have to make what we
Wow.
want in Christ like now, because there's going to be a time where we're all gone and we'll be thought of for the last time. So that's just my theory on things. When it comes to
Wow.
an apocalypse, the moon dripping away like blood and sun moving out, all of that happens for each of us. We have to have that internal death in order to move forward and reach a Christ-like living and how we
Yes.
act. So,
Yes.
that's how I tried to teach it to people. And then I decided I didn't want to do religion because I had a lot of the problems with the church. And so I changed to life coaching and therapy and counseling and stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to become a creative life strategist, particularly focusing on women's age 50 and above?
Okay, I'm gonna do my best to not be super long-winded, and please let me know if I am going like
Take
speed
your
it up.
time. Take your
Okay,
time.
it's because it's a little bit like I said, I need to give you a bit of backstory because it's not
Okay.
like a cut and dry. So in 2003, actually a week ago Monday, 21 years ago Monday, I woke up a normal Tuesday morning, but my husband had passed away in his sleep. So I
Wow.
had just really turned 40 and he had just turned 41. Our kids were 10. Our son just turned 10 and our daughter was 5.5.
Mm.
And that was like having a rug pulled out from underneath me. And I was honestly free falling. Like, in any case, I was like, oh my God, who do I want to be when I grow up? That was how I felt.
Yeah.
Coaching the industry, yes, was happening, but nobody was here. Like, and I'm Canadian and I'm from Ontario. And in this
Okay.
part of Canada, it was not, it was like this. I had been sending my son to a life coach when he was 9, to a coach who worked with kids, because there was a lot of very big changes happening within in my husband's family and that would be affecting my kids. So I knew about coaching, and then George passed away, and there was a show on called The Starting Over House with the Alma Van Zant. Or Rhonda Britton was in the first. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she's a brilliant coach. Oh, brilliant. The premise was women move into a house for 6 weeks and they work with the life coach. And I would watch it
Oh,
after I took the kids to school because I had nothing flipping else to do, either that or be in my grief like
yeah.
crazy. So I kind of would do both at the same time. And I was really into Dr. Phil at the time, and he calls himself a life strategist.
Yeah.
And I took some time off that first year because I needed to, because I was a mess. In any case, I didn't know, like I said, who do I want to be when I grow up? I didn't have a job to go back to. I was in a seasonal job. The season had ended. And then 2 months later, my husband passed away. Okay. So I was like, oh, look at this industry of coaching. My goodness. And I honestly, because I was talking to God, when you have a diverse background like you do, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a social worker, but then I went to art college, and then I was in sales. It's like I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
And then I discovered this arena called coaching, and it felt like a tailor-made for me. And then I was like, oh, okay. So like I've done this in sales, in having to recruit and maintain a team. And so I started to get certified and I started to get clients, always really working with women about mindset and our stories, right?
Yeah.
And keeping ourselves the limiting beliefs. So I started to see just even before that, I went to a psychiatrist who works solely in grief for young spouses. And he said to me, my first session with him, he said, you know, Andrea, what I really see of you is being a grief counselor. And I swear I lost it on him. I'm like, I don't think so. What? No, it ain't gonna define me, right? Okay. I laugh. Anyways, yeah, a couple years into coaching, who's coming to me as clients? But women who had lost their spouse, not at their beginning of their grief, but almost like, how do I move forward with this? It's been a year. How do I start to move forward in my life? Okay, so that's really how I got into coaching, always working with women, kind of rebranding, but honestly, my message is my message is my message. And that is, it's a war zone, it's a battle zone in between the two ears. And we got to get it right. And, you know, the whole thing about, you know, like letting women be aware of the things that they do, like they're self-victimizing, doing the blame game. How do I know this? Not just because of books that I've studied and courses that I've took, but because if I look in the mirror, the figure points really back at myself. So I've always really called myself a life coach, even though I never really gravitated. I don't know why, probably because honestly, back in the day, Mark, when somebody said, so what do you do? And he said, I said, I'm a life coach. They looked at me like a deer in the headlight. They're like, what?
They
What's
still
a
kind of
life
do
coach?
that nowadays if you say
What's a
you're a
life
coach.
coach, right? And then I do my best to explain, and then thinking I was always very inadequate, truthfully, in my explanation, because I still got the, and, you know, because the International Coaching Federation really, back then, I don't care what they're like now, I've made that many years into coaching, but
Yeah.
in no, I would be truthful with you, within that probably first to 10 years of being a coach, it's still stuck in my head that you could be so punished if you said that coaching was a therapeutic modality. It's not therapy. I call BS. BS,
Yeah.
because it is a therapeutic modality.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I was you have to be very, in that respect, cautious of your languaging. I couldn't say this is therapeutic. In any case, now, why do I call myself a creative? So over the years of coaching, and as I'm working with women, and as I'm evolving, and as I'm witnessing what's going on in the world around me, and especially in the online space, and through my my own peer groups, pretty frustrated. Like, for instance, okay, so my life didn't go as I had been planning with my husband of 18 years, right? We had made, you know, they tell you, do your 10-year plan, do your 5-year plan, right? BS, because you can plan, but you know, God sits and laughs at us, right?
Yeah.
So I had planned for the longest time, just as an example. When I turn 50, I want to go to Amsterdam. Listen, not going to fib, okay? Very big reefer smoker back in my day. Listen, I grew up in the 70s and in the 80s, like, hello, child of the 60s. And I didn't grow up in a very structured religious home, okay? So I had that, I was one of those wild childs of freedom. I said I wanted to be, I was like a hippie, right?
Yeah.
I really want to go to Amsterdam and experience this, go to a cafe, da, 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 da. Yeah, Mark, guess what? The year I was turning 50, just prior to that, my son had gone into a serious depression from the grief because we had lost a majority of family members in a short period of time. And then my daughter got hit by a car crossing the street. Yeah, I wasn't freaking going to Amsterdam. I might be going to a psych ward because, you know, I'm losing my, starts with an S and ends with a T, fill in the
Yeah.
blanks. You know, and really a couple years after that, I'm having like honestly another breakdown. So was I frustrated with where, and I made other plans in terms of, by that point, I was in the industry of coaching under 10 years at this point, and, you know, setting goals for my income and, oh, do the business plan. And yeah, again, we can plan. Yes, and listen, I'm speaking my own experience. There are people who make business plans and everything that is on their business plan is executed, it happens, and so on and so on. In my
Yeah.
case, lots of plans that I made didn't happen. In my 40s, and because I wasn't walking with Jesus like I do now, I was called the bullshit slayer. That's what I was branding under, right? Because our
I know.
limiting thoughts are our BS, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But now I'm in my 50s and I really wasn't didn't really feel like it was an accurate fit for me. And as I then was walking further and closer with God, I knew that that wasn't the right fit for me. So I was still, Coach Andrea, showing you how to really experience emotional freedom through doing that inner work. Then I'm bought a course, a wealth course, a Christian Create Wealth. What's his name? Jim Baker,
Yeah.
phenomenal guy, right?
Yeah.
And it was in a coaching session. Yeah, and I was just, talking about my frustrations with this business because I've like started and stopped, and this branding and this marketing and this like all of that.
Yeah.
And his daughter-in-law came on and said, "Hey, can I coach you for a little bit?" And I was like, "Yeah." Now, because it was a Christian space, I understand that she was quite pathetic. If I'm saying, like, did I pronounce that right? Pathetic?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so she said, "Andrea," she goes, "I really see you as a creative life strategist." And I was like, yeah, that felt so good. It just felt so good because it is about the strategies that I work with the client on, because life and change. And when we want to make change, we've got to come up with these strategies. But now I use the Bible and I use scripture as what the world would use for affirmations. We make the scriptures the affirmations. So it just honestly, Mark, I hope I really answered your question. I know I can kind of go off in tangents, but it felt like, honestly, like after all of this time, Mark, from the start of this journey to deciding that I wanted to be a life coach, to getting certified as a life coach, to doing it, to rebranding and evolving and all of the different things that I've done in my business over all of these years, that was like, man, that feels so right for me. And, now I'm 62. So I've been around that block a few times, and I'm really, I want to say proud, but honored and blessed to say that I do. I'm filled with that wisdom that comes with if we're paying attention and we're doing the work that God has called us to do. We receive that wisdom, and I'm meant to share it and help those women know that it's okay. It's okay to be frustrated with the dreams that you made in your 30s, that now you find yourself divorced in your 50s, or like myself, a widow. Listen, at 40, I didn't think I'd be a widow. I mean, you think maybe you'd be divorced. You certainly don't really think like, oh, yeah, I'm a widow at 40. Like, that just felt weird. So I hope I
Yeah.
did answer your question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And it's amazing you said all of that because I just turned 40 and this year. And, I've never been married. I changed my life up in the last 5 years. Like, I used to be an addict. I used to party all the time. I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. I had many different jobs throughout my life. Like, I had worked in a microbiology immunology department for a while. I was working in burlesque for a while in New York. I did theater. Like, that was my other major in college, was musical theater. And so I did a lot of theater and I played a lot of instruments and I sang. And so I was an entertainer for the
So
most
you're an
part.
artist, so you know what I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
right? With
yes,
that whole, like, we're flipping all over the place.
yeah. And it's like, when I was just literally thinking, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Because I have no idea. And I was like, you're 40, you have to know what you want to do. So I got into coaching and I got certified and I got 20 certifications right off the bat. Like, I literally got certified in 20 different things, and that all went with life coaching. And I was like, but I hate the term life coach. I hate the term life coach because you have to be careful when you say that, because either people roll their eyes or they have no idea what you're talking about. So I love the term life strategist. I was like, that fits so much. Like, that's what we have to do is we strategize life. And you have to plan. You can plan all day. And that's what I am. I'm a planner. Like, I like to have things mapped out, and I like for everything to go like it's supposed to. And when it doesn't, it just throws me so
Right.
much because I don't know what else to do because my plan didn't work. So in the last few years, I started being okay with plans changing. I literally,
Amen.
like,
Amen.
you
Yeah.
have to, if you want to have any type of significance in your life, you have to be okay with your life changing, because it will. Like, things will happen out of nowhere and you won't be ready for them.
And you
And
have
so
to
you
make
have,
peace. And you have
yeah,
to make peace with where you are presently at. Because if our
yep.
resistance is too strong, I was the queen of resistance. So I know what I'm talking about. It's like you may as well just wave the white flag at that point and be, I surrender, I submit to you, God.
And that's the thing that God wants us to do, is surrender to him. Like, you have to. If you don't, things will get worse. Like, the more you fight it, the worse it gets. And I literally realized that too, because I used to do karaoke a lot. And a friend of mine died, and he was a karaoke DJ, and he died. And I stopped going to karaoke. And like, I literally couldn't go back and sing again. So like, over the last few years, I've sang less. And I didn't realize that until I one day went to sing a song and I couldn't sing it anymore. And I
Yeah.
was like, what happened? And I was like, Mark, you haven't sang in
Grief.
4 years.
Grief. That's what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. And I was like, I was like, oh my gosh. And I changed, art fields, I guess you could say. I decided one day I wanted to learn how to draw, about 5
Is
years
that
ago.
your piece behind you?
No, that's a friend of mine made that for, I
I
bought
love
it
that.
for, but I love the new logo. I made the last one, but it was it
Well,
wasn't
I
great.
love that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I do a lot of abstract art, but I literally decided I was going to start drawing. I went to the store, I bought a bunch of paper, I bought a bunch of different types of pencils, and I started drawing. And I drew every day for 5 years straight, multiple times a day. I went from drawing black blobs on paper, because I would just go over everything over and over and over again until you
Right.
just couldn't see anything. And it went from that till now I can usually draw things I can see. So like, I really put in the hours in order to learn this skill that I've always wanted to learn, because I never thought I could. And then I realized it was because I didn't think I could is why I couldn't. And once
Give
that
me
hit
5,
me,
Mark. Okay? Right now. Yeah.
so I I was like, oh my gosh, what else can I do? And I decided, I was like, well, I want to help people with this. So I need to get into a field that's going to let me help people
And
learn that
coaching
effort.
is you have that freedom. Like why I also chose coaching back then, as opposed to going and finishing for social work or wanting to become an actual therapist or psychotherapist, was because I found, okay, so because you'll really get this because you are an artist. We're very free and we're free with our language. Those
Yeah,
other modalities had to be so restrictive. And Mark, I said to you earlier, I'm like, I was that rebel and I was that wild child, right? Not that I would ever be insulting, but to have to be, I don't do well with restriction or rules. Like I can't work for a system. Like don't, especially now in this flipping lunacy of a world that we're living in. You don't
very.
know, no, it wouldn't, no. So I wouldn't
Yeah,
even offer my services today like I did back in the day when I first started coaching, because I do workshop facilitating for not-for-profits, because I know that it's not gonna align with me. Like maybe, probably I would be able to do it. I take that back, because I think if they were a Christian, not for profit, because those values really align with me. But if it was of the world, not-for-profits. The values do not align with me, and I'm not going to do well. And I don't want to insult anybody, and I don't want, because I love everybody. I just don't like
Yeah,
ideologies, and I don't like where we're finding things. And I'm not a conformist. But
likewise.
you said something that really kind of hit home when you were talking about how you used to be the king of karaoke. And then when your friend had passed away, and it's funny, and it brought me back. So when I was going to art college here in Toronto, my father had passed away just before starting my final year. And I haven't picked up a paintbrush. I was doing textile design and, just a very I do abstract art.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been able to do that at all since. So it's funny that you said, because I've never not heard that from anybody else. And it's like, so you know what? If it's happened to Mark, right? And it's happened to me,
It probably happens to a
really
lot
put
of
the two
people.
together. It's the grief. Grief
Yeah.
snuffs things out in us.
I mean, it literally takes everything out of you when you lose someone, like, because you'll connect it with whatever you're doing at the present moment.
Right.
So the fact that, I was singing all the time and he loved my singing. So, like, I love to sing for him. And when he died, like, it hit me hard because I
Yeah.
literally talked to him 2 weeks before that. And I was like, I'll talk to you soon. I'll talk to you. He was like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then he died in sleep. And
Yeah. And that hits
I was,
hard.
yeah, so it
How
hit
old
me.
was he? How old was
He
he?
was probably mid 40s.
Okay, so like my husband who had just turned
Yeah,
41 and
yeah, he
dies
was
in his
probably about
sleep.
40. He was probably about 44, 45. And like it was just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it hit me hard. Like I couldn't go to the funeral, which made it even worse.
Oh,
And I just decided, I was like, I don't want to sing anymore. Like I just didn't want to sing anymore. And I sing at home a little bit every now and then. Like I listen to music all the time because music is life. And I would still listen to music, but I caught myself not singing as much as I used to. So when I went
mm.
through my psychosis/spiritual awakening, I was singing at the top of my lungs. I felt so bad for my neighbors. I would sing outside and I would sing at the top of my lungs. I still do it now. They're such great people. They don't even call the law or nothing. They just let me sing. But I sing at the top of my lungs, and they just took it and let me do it. And it felt so freeing because I hadn't sang in so long. And I'm used to being able to sing at the top of my lungs because I don't want to feel like I have to hide it. Because I feel like expressing yourself shouldn't be something you have to hide. It's something that we should all get to hear.
Right.
We should all get to see your art
Right.
and whatever that is.
Yes.
And I so I sing out loud and I sing as loud as possible because I want everyone to hear it. So
Come on,
that's what
do
I,
it. Yes.
yeah, and
Yes.
that's what I try to push with my coaching because I did a lot of therapies and stuff. I didn't feel, I mean, I'm in school right now for psychology, but what I'm learning is I don't feel what they have to teach me is going to be the right fit for my coaching because I've also did studying under solution focused brief therapy and expressive arts therapy. And so with expressive arts therapy, you use, writing and singing and music and art and all as tools of therapy. And with solution focused brief therapy, it's all the solution based. Like, you don't talk about the trauma you went through. You talk about what are your goals and how you reach those goals and what plan do you need to put in place to reach those goals. And I teach that with effort comes success because the more effort we put into something, the more we can guide where we want to go to getting the things we want. Is all about putting forth the effort and then sometimes having to let go of all that effort and just having faith because you can only put so much effort into it and then you have to let faith take over and be like, okay, I know this is going to work because I did everything I could to make this work.
And give it to
And
God.
yeah, and you just give it to God. And I've found it's changed my entire life.
So I have a
It's
question
literally
for you.
changed my entire life.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
So you were using the word effort, yeah? Was that what you were
Yes.
saying? Yeah. Okay. So what do you think about, maybe it's not a question, or maybe I'll just put this out there, not worry about it, and then let's chew the fat on it. So do you think sometimes, because I see that, you cross over that, there's that fine line into forcing,
And that's the thing you have to be careful about.
right?
You have to put
Because
just
I
enough
think
effort.
I kind of I'm not even sure if I really like the word effort, because EFG, right? So
Yeah.
EF, and I can see now, like when we're saying it, and I can see in my brain, like, oh, well, that makes sense why we move into that space of forcing, because the letters are one after the other.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to, I have to say my alphabet in my head. I want to go back to D, which comes before E, which would be for desire. That desires is to really be in alignment with that desire and making
Yeah.
movement
I like that better.
to achieve the desire to manifest here in the 3D reality that all of us
Yeah.
presently are living in, even though I do my best to stay not here in this realm, but to truly be in that spiritual realm with the Father and with Christ. Yeah, because I can see where that effort really starts with an F, ends with a D, me up, okay?
Yeah.
Because again, because I didn't know, see, Hosea 4:6 really fit me. I was perishing because I didn't know. I didn't even know about the Bible. I didn't know what the books represented. I didn't know what the characters, never mind the Old Testament. I had no clue about this New Testament thing about Bobber as a Jew, you know. So I had no idea. I would hear, see, because for me, I just had this very obnoxious, ignorant, arrogant mindset about, and I had this from a little girl. Oh, yeah, the Old Testament, yeah. They probably have some men sitting around the fire drinking wine, and they wrote this book. Well, that's so stupid of me. I've repented on that one for sure. But it is like that book of instructions and answers and all of these things. I was putting everything on myself. It was my efforts. Well, if Andrew's not going to do it, how's it going to flip and get done? Because yes, of course, I was this law of attraction chick and very much into the principle. So you just give it to the universe. But no, it's give it to God and go to my Father's word and give it to Christ. And I got the Holy Ghost. Do you know Andrew Womack? Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness. He's been a wonderful teacher for me of learning all of this stuff. But he says, he has this expression, he goes, I'm 1/3 wall-to-wall Holy Ghost. And I was like, man, I love that. So now I don't have to effort and I don't have to force. I can work with the Holy Ghost to allow these desires again to come to pass and manifest here in this 3D reality, because I was not making the manifestations happening and I kept thinking there was something wrong with me. There's got to be something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? Why can I coach a client and we can achieve her results? What the heck is wrong with you, Andrea? So,
I, I
yeah.
definitely feel that because I've had those moments. And then with the solution focused brief therapy, they talk about what's your desired outcome. That's what they use as their
And do the
modality for
reverse
that.
engineering and then work
Yeah,
backwards.
yeah. And so that's where I have to tell myself now, when I push my effort too far and I have to go back and retrack, and then I say, what's your desired
Yes.
outcome? And it's like,
Yes.
have you done everything you can to make this happen? And it's like, well, yeah. And it's like, then let it go. Just let it go. Let God handle it. Because every time I do that, I'll get what I'm looking for without having to do more. Like, I'll do the stuff that I know I have to do. Like if I'm doing this podcast, like making sure I have interviews and talking to people and writing stuff down, marketing and stuff like that. And then I'll be like, well, I might not be seeing the reach I want, or I'm not getting the views I want. And then I'll go back in like 2 weeks, and having not thought about any of it, and just left it up to God, and I'll check, and it'll be like, you have 1,000 views. And I'm like, huh. I'm like, I didn't even realize that was coming. And it's always that way. Like, every time I let it go, that's when I see the result that I was trying to get in the first place. It
Right,
was like,
because
I
you let go
did
of
everything I
control.
can.
Right,
Yeah.
because you let go of the control on it.
Yeah.
Right, which is so important.
And we have to, like, we literally have to have faith. And that's why faith is so important, because, we have to have faith in something. And that's my entire belief is, if you just have faith in humanity, like, you can be Christ-like, because you literally have faith in your fellow human being to do the right things and to, learn new things and do everything that people do. And we have to see that in each other, because those forces of good and evil are in all of us. And we keep ourselves structured, because in the end, like, we don't have to listen to any laws or anything if we didn't want to. People show that every day, that they don't do what they want. So we as a whole keep ourselves under laws and under structure and under modalities and under all this stuff, when it comes natural. It's so natural just to live, just live. That was my motto for the longest time. Live, just live. That's all God asked me. God gave
Yes.
you choice, and God said, live. Go out there and multiply. That was about it. Be good to your neighbor. He didn't have many laws. He didn't have, they have the 10 Commandments and all this stuff. And it's like, but even that, Jesus didn't have that many rules. Buddha didn't have that many rules. Muhammad didn't have that many rules. All these people that we look to for, our spiritual lives didn't have many rules. They had maybe 2, 3, if that. So with that, we have to look at how can we be like these figures, because they didn't have many rules, didn't have many laws, and we have to be like them in order, for here. That way we can pass that on to others, because we all know what suffering is like. And
Yes.
and because we all know pain, we all know suffering, we should do our best to not give that to somebody else or bring that pain to somebody else. So it's easier for us all to live, like, because we all are going through the same experience. I like to think about that life is itself on Earth is the multiverse. Like, everyone always thinks out into space and alternate realities when they think of multiverse. And I was like, just think about it as humanity. We're all one creature. We're all human. So because we're all human, everyone has the ability to choose whatever they want to do. So that's every choice that can ever be made in the people that come to the planet. So every child that's born is a new choice in ways they're going to do things. They're not going to do it like anybody else. So in that state, we're a multiverse in itself, because the multiverse is literally you, 1,000 versions, millions of versions of you making all sorts of different choices. That's humanity. We're all human.
Right.
We all make different choices. And you're going to see something that I'm not going to see. I'm going to see something that you didn't see. That person's going to see something that we didn't see. And it's all literally choice and doing things in different ways in order to experience life in all its forms. And that's
Yes.
just the way I think about things. And
No, because
because
there's
I
a
always tell people,
million, it's like, it's that abstract form. There are
yep,
so many different perspectives in which one can really achieve that single point, but we're
yep,
all coming from a whole different direction. But really, we're attached to that point right there in the center, and we spring off from there.
yep.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting concept, Mark. Listen,
Thank you.
Mark, you're a very interesting kind of guy. Like, I honestly, like, I could talk to you forever because there's just so much that we have in common that it's crazy. So what part of the world are you in? I know you're in the States,
I'm
but
in North Carolina.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm in the South of the
I got some
U.S.
friends out that way, yeah,
Yeah,
that I
it's
made
a
on
hard
different
time
planets.
living in North Carolina right now. We have some weird laws uh
Mm,
that has made
yeah.
national news. We're weird. It's a weird state. It's just such a weird state.
I think it's a weird world right now that, but,
Yeah,
but, you know, as Satan would want to have it, that we keep our eyes on him instead of on God. Because I know
yeah,
that even I was saying for quite a long time, actually, very much pre the big lie of 2020, that systems were completely broken and they needed to be completely dismantled because he couldn't do the band-aid shit anymore. Okay. This
they can hide
band-aid
stuff from you.
action, right? So now I know that God is shaken and he's shaking it vigorously because evil is really being revealed. Things are really, and I'm so grateful for that. So I do my best, honestly. It doesn't work all the time because I can go into thought loops and I can go down certain rabbit holes.
Yeah,
So I do my best to really keep my focus on God and know that he's got everything covered. And I'm so good with that. And yeah, like there's some, I'll just tell you, Mark, okay? I'm really glad that I'm not raising these young kids today. Okay. I'm
yeah.
glad I've already done that. Because I would homeschool my children. I wouldn't flip them. I wouldn't let them in a bloody school.
Not as many
Okay.
shootings as there are nowadays. Like there's shootings everywhere.
Oh,
It's
never mind the
crazy. Like, and I have
shootings.
two little kids. I have two young kids. I have a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Oh my
And
God.
like I'm just like, I want them home. Like I would love to have them homeschooled with
Oh, well,
me.
for sure for that. But listen, I know somebody she's a lawyer and she has a client whose daughter's a teacher, and they put in a litter box because a student identifies as a freaking furry. Okay. Like, it's crazy. Crazy because they've been pumping them up on antidepressants and anti-anxiety and messing with the natural wiring of the brain for
Yeah,
far too long. And remember when I said I don't do well in systems and structures? I would not have my kids if my kids are of school age. I don't think, but I would have to make myself capable of being that mom with the patience to homeschool to make sure my children got, because for me, school was always for myself. And I wanted my children to enjoy, it was for the social aspect, not, because we can create our own curriculum no matter what. And we can
yeah,
self-educate and we can self-learn and should always continue to self-learn, right? So don't tell
yeah.
me, because in my case here, Toronto District School Board is the only way, and they know what's best in terms of every subject of what my children should have been learning, because I call BS on that one, right?
Yeah. They've literally you once we go to school nowadays, like I didn't realize this until I had gotten out of school because I was a lifelong learner. I didn't need
Yes,
teachers. I didn't need teachers to teach me stuff. As long as I felt interested in it, I would learn it. So
right.
I didn't really need them. And I showed that a lot throughout my schooling was I was like, I don't need the teacher. I just need the book. But then you come to find out after you go to school that half the stuff they taught you in school was wrong or wasn't, the truth. And it's like, why did I have to spend so many years learning this stuff if none
Studying
of it,
it,
one, matters?
writing
Yeah.
exams, writing essays.
Yep. And just for nothing. And then come to find out that that information that y'all gave us
Is
was
BS.
just mostly just keeping us busy and not teaching
Right.
us about the world, because a lot of schooling doesn't teach you about, finances
No, they don't
and
even teach you
stock.
basic life skills. They don't
Yeah,
even teach like they don't teach life skills.
no, they don't.
And you're right, they
And
don't
like,
teach finance, they don't teach budgeting, they
no,
don't teach, really, they don't teach proper nutrition. They don't teach a lot of stuff, Mark.
yeah, yeah. And it's so much that we need to teach kids in order for them to be able to take over the planet when we die. Like, these are things that are needing mental health. Like, there's so many schools that should teach about good mental health, and that, teaching these kids that they're not the problem in their homes. Like, their parents might have situations going on that have
And they
nothing to
really
do with
don't
them.
have ADD or ADHD, and they really don't need the Ritalin that they've been put on because the parents are stressed out and they freaking hate. That's why I'm a creative life strategist for women, okay? Because I know what it's
Yeah.
like to be that very. Listen, Mark, I'm a young widow. I'm taking care of my mother who's disabled. I'm raising 2 kids. My mother dies 3 years after my husband. I have a hysterectomy. I know what it's like to be that woman who has so much and I have great friends, okay, but I don't have a big family. And you can't rely on your friends, and you certainly can't rely on your kids. And that kind of support, and to feel that overwhelm and that like exhaustion of life, right?
Yeah.
My point is most mothers, fathers, parents go to the pediatrician because they're not going to admit that they hate their own lives and they hate where they brought themselves. So they're going to point the finger at their kids. Oh my God, little Johnny won't stay still. Well, little Johnny's not supposed to stay still.
Yeah.
Okay? Little Johnny's a little Johnny and he needs to go outside and play. Okay?
Just
And because he's not,
run as hard as he
okay.
can.
Oh my God, Johnny's teacher called us in for that parent teacher and was saying, oh my goodness, little Johnny won't stop talking. And I can't control your son. Maybe you should have Johnny tested to see if he has ADD or ADHD, because it's bullshit. Because now that teacher is stressed out and can't handle her flipping life. So she's going to blame little Johnny,
Yeah.
and, listen, I'm in Canada, so works a little bit differently here, but bottom line is the pharmaceutical industry works the same no matter where you are in the world. And yeah, ka-ching, 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 money,
That's
money,
all
money,
it's about.
kickback, kickback,
That's all
kickbacks
it's
to
about.
doctors. Okay.
Yep.
And now we have, look at what we've created. God forbid, Mark, what are they going to do, whether it be Canada or the United States, to draft into the military whom of this generation? What? Yeah,
There would be riots.
good God, please. Honestly, I'm scared to even think about it because they don't have a backbone. They just don't have a backbone, these kids. Their parents have called the universities complaining to the professors because you didn't give Johnny a good enough mark. And Johnny's going to go into med school, and now you're messing up my son. Like these helicopter parents.
Yep.
It's a mad world. It's a mad,
It
mad
is.
world.
It
Yeah.
really is. And there's so much that needs to change, but it's changing. And
Yes, because
I
God
have
is
faith
changing it.
in the
Amen.
change that's are coming. Because, like I said, a lot of stuff used to be hidden, for years, and all that stuff is coming out. And, celebrities are losing their minds because they don't know what to do, because all of their nonsense is coming out.
Oh, yeah,
And
man.
politicians, all this stuff's coming out. We're starting to realize as a people, as a world people, that our governments haven't been here to aid us in real ways. Like, it's all been about control and things
The
that
devil is a
they want.
flipping liar, and
Yeah,
he's a defeated foe. But he's so pathetic. Like when I'm watching the things that he's grasping at and trying to listen, you're right, because things are being exposed. I mean, okay, look at the flipping music industry. Look at what's being exposed. Look at, my son, like I'm very creative, and honestly, when I was in high school, one of my biggest dreams was to go to Yale, to its theater school. Didn't happen because I knew my parents didn't at that time have $80,000. And that was back then to send me.
Yeah.
Fine. I went to art college instead, whatever. Okay. But my son was also very creative and wanted to do that. I don't know. I'd see these ads here or hear them on the radio about how in casting, casting departments from Disney were coming, and something just didn't bring me there. And I'm really glad that I never, even though for a long time, Mark, I beat myself up thinking I held my son back from his dreams. But I got to tell you, now with what's being revealed, because my family would have been that target. I was that single widow, right?
Yep.
I
And
didn't
see,
do the big brother thing because something just didn't feel right. I was
I
not placing
did
my
all
son
of
at risk.
those, I did all of that casting stuff.
Yeah.
And I worked in New York and worked with celebrities. And I literally got so disgusted by what I saw,
Oh my
it
God.
stopped me from doing theater.
Yeah.
Like it literally stopped me from being an actor, because like I saw them when they were just like partying and just being themselves. And themselves was not the people they showed on TV and they showed on interviews. It was an entirely different person who was
There was
usually
a
mean
sinister
spirited.
person inside of them.
Yeah. And it was so much. And it's like a lot of them have a lot of mental illness that never got treated in any type of way. And because now they're successful and they have money, they don't feel that law applies to them. Like I
Right.
watched a guy, I can't say who, because I'm technically under contract where I can't
Oh,
talk
no,
about
no, no.
that.
That's okay. You can
But
message me on
there was,
Messenger.
yes. There's been some people though I watched literally throw full champagne bottles at people in the club I worked at. And I mean, hit them clean in the head.
Yeah.
And then just throw money at them and laugh. And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah. I believe that.
yeah. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Or some of them, I will say this, I did get to meet Heath Ledger. And Heath Ledger, the guy who was the Joker in the Batman
Yes.
movie. And he was an amazing guy. Like he was actually what he depicted. He was just a great guy.
So what do you think happened to him? Was it
I know what
getting
happened
into
to him.
that character of that role?
I know what happened to him because I was there the night he died.
Oh,
I hung out with him the night he died
okay.
and literally talked to him. And we had a few drinks, some other stuff happened. And he was like, I'll talk to you again. And I was
And
like,
then
that's awesome. Yeah. And then the next morning he had died. And Mary-Kate Olsen was the last person to see him alive. And when they asked her about it, she asked for immunity.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes. And so
Interesting.
like it was a really interesting situation. They came to our show because a lot of celebrities came to our show because it was a burlesque theater. It was like Moulin Rouge.
Where was it?
And
Where was it? What
it
theater
was the
was it playing?
it was the Lower East Side of New York. It was called The Box. And it
Okay.
was just like it was like a club slash burlesque show.
Yeah.
And we did two different shows. We did a dinner show and we did a like midnight show. And the midnight show was a lot more
Oh, it must have
risque.
been very raunchy. Very raunchy.
Yes,
I
it
can imagine.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of celebrities came and saw our show. I got to meet a lot of celebrities. I got to hang out with ZZ Top for a week one
Really?
time. And yeah, it was just an amazing time. Like I wouldn't trade that experience
No.
for the world, but it changed my view on the dream I had. And that's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be an actor and then, or an entertainer in general. And it made me not want to do that anymore. Like
Yeah.
my mom came to visit me one day and I was like an addict. I was doing a lot of cocaine and drinking every day. And I just told her, I was sitting there eating breakfast with her and I was like, this job's going to kill me. And I just started laughing and crying at the same time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was like, you have to come home. So I
Oh,
went
God
home.
bless your mother. God bless your mother.
Yeah, I went home for vacation for a week, went through detox. And when I came back and told them I wasn't going to party anymore and I wasn't going to drink
Oh, that
anymore.
they don't like that. You don't
Oh,
tell
they
people
fired me.
right, because you don't tell people who live that lifestyle that
Yeah,
you don't want to drink or you don't want to do drugs.
yeah.
No, they don't want you
This-
near them.
And see, after that, I went back to all that stuff, and then I stopped again, and I was just like, this isn't for me fully. Like, and I'm not an addict. I've never had that mentality. So it was hard to let it go.
Well, because you're letting go of a lot of stuff. It wasn't just you're letting go of the drugs and the booze and
Yeah,
that wildness, right? You're letting go of a dream. You're
yeah,
letting go of people that I'm sure you thought were friends.
yeah,
And maybe some actually were and maybe still are, because I don't
yeah,
believe just because we're walking that wild side, that doesn't mean we aren't making some real connections with individuals, because there are real people like yourself.
yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've had a very interesting life. And I had to tell myself that anytime I'm feeling down, it's like life wasn't bad. I lived a very interesting life, and I
You
got to do
did,
many
Mark.
things that other people didn't get to do.
You didn't
Eh,
live a sheltered life, which is beautiful.
No,
Like, I have two siblings, and my sister's 10 years older than me, and my brother's 9 years older than me. And I couldn't be more, I mean, we have some similarities, obviously, but I couldn't be more different than my brother and my sister, okay? They are very straight, very walk the straight and narrow. I was doing after hours and wildness and going into strip clubs and in the 80s, doing all the gay bar things because I was hanging with hairdressers and makeup artists, and I was in art college, and I was very much a culture and the world, and the stuff I've seen and the places that I've been. I wouldn't trade it, because I really believe truly that God was placing me in these places, because we have to understand that you can't judge a book by its cover, that
yeah,
there's somebody inside of that shell. And just because she might climb a pole for a living, right? Okay.
yeah,
Or he might be going through a phase where he's a pimp right now and not really fully understanding, but that doesn't make that person, she is not a stripper and he is not a pimp. He's a human and she's a human. And it really allowed me to see a lot, maybe too much, to be truthful with you, the stuff I've seen, but I don't regret it. I really don't. There's parts as I got older that I should have kind of closed doors sooner, but I didn't, and I have to make peace with that. But yeah, have a very bright, vibrant. It's like a mosaic, and I love it. I really do. Like, I wouldn't haven't given up going to the Ontario College of Art for 4 years, because it was at the time, it was like the most renowned art college in the world in the 80s. And
yeah,
it was very exclusive. And, you wanted to be an actor, and you
yeah,
know what that world is like. I
yeah.
loved it. Would I make these choices today, Mark, as who Andrea is today? Probably not. Probably not. But
And
the Andrea then made them, and I did have a lot of fun, and I think I was stuffing down a lot of pain with a lot of that, and a lot of it was to be able to distract myself from stuff that was way too painful. I didn't really know how to sit, and I've been very good at processing, and I do a lot of processing out loud, but really didn't know how to process certain emotions, that anger of my father getting sick and of dying, of post-traumatic stress. I didn't really know how to process that stuff. And it's important. And I think that was another reason why I became a coach, because my role is to help that woman process. As much as we want to pretend stuff didn't happen, and I don't take them and I don't make them stay in that past, but there's things, those roots are very tightly tied together, and we have
yeah,
to unravel them so that we can release them, so we can fill that garden up, so we can plant the new seeds using the word of God in that soil, so the weeds start growing there and the enemy has no chance to get in there and contaminate the garden. like he was doing before. Oh my God, Mark, honest to God, I could talk to you forever. I'm going to send you a message. Just so you know, if you're interested, I'm a phenomenal matchmaker. You said you're not married and you live in North
Yes.
Carolina. And I have some really awesome friends in your age range who
Okay.
live in North Carolina, Mark.
I
Just
mean,
saying.
I'm not that. I mean, I could always meet some new people. I always love
I
meeting
think
new
it's
people.
great to meet new people. I think it's really great. I know. Listen, I don't do that dating thing. I've never done that dating thing. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, I think I'd be very nervous. But when you meet somebody casually and you just have conversation and you see where it goes and you remove that heaviness of, but just saying, Mark, just putting it out there.
awesome, awesome. I'll take you up on that. Well, we are out of time. I want to ask you one more question, and that is, what
Yes.
is the question you have for the next guest?
Okay. I don't want to be too cliche, and I love the question that was given to me. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10,
Okay.
how comfortable are you with where you find yourself presently in life? 1
Oh,
is I am not comfortable at all, and 10 is I love where I'm at.
that's a good question. Okay. I'll definitely let you know what the next guest says about that.
Yes.
I like to end every episode with thank you for today, thank you for yesterday, and thank you for tomorrow. Always remember to question your reality, and at every end, there is a beginning. You guys take care, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Mark.
And that wraps up another thought provoking episode of What Are You Even Talking About? We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the discussion we had today. Before we go, we want to extend a huge thank you to our amazing guest. Your insights and expertise truly enriched our conversation, and we're grateful for your contribution. And of course, a massive thank you to you, our incredible audience. Your engagement, questions, and feedback make this podcast what it is. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect. Thank you for today. Thank you for yesterday. Thank you for tomorrow. Always remember to question your reality, and at every end, there is a beginning. We love the journey we're on with each and every one of you. Keep those questions coming, keep challenging the status quo, and keep exploring the uncharted territories of your mind. We can't wait to dive into another riveting conversation in our next episode. Until then, take care, stay curious, and keep asking, what are you even talking about? Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and connect with us on social media. We'll catch you in the next one. You guys take care.